Joab Wako is marking 6 years living with a chronic kidney disease. He shares his story with our reporter Harriet Chimea and says even though celebrating surviving kidney transplant, the life after is an uphill task. At the same time, a nephrologist advises the prevention of renal failure, especially among people with diabetes and high blood pressure, the two leading causes. Here is more.
Hospital to hospital, misdiagnosed twice, and under the wrong medications that deteriorated his health, he was then diagnosed with chronic kidney disease in 2015.
One day I just got home from work and started feeling very fatigued. I was extremely exhausted. I lost my appetite and I couldn't even sleep. Some nights you end up not being able to sleep because the way the kidney is set up, it's at night is when it helps you sleep, I think. So I couldn't sleep, and one day I woke up and I had a very puffy face. Other than the puffy face, my skin got very dark. So when you have chronic kidney disease, your skin ends up getting very, very dark because the toxins are not being removed. And then I had this thing called uremic frost where you look like umeparara, like your skin looks very, very dry. So I didn't know at the time, but that uremic frost is an indicator of chronic kidney disease.
Joab says the dialysis treatment was one of the biggest challenges.
Of course, I'm terrified because I wasn't put to sleep. It was something that is done when you are awake under local anesthesia. So they numb the area, it's around your neck and you're awake. And now you have all these doctors working on your neck to get this tube so that you can get blood to do dialysis. So that took maybe a couple of hours of just lying there and having the doctors work on me. And I remember at that point just wondering how I'll do this, because now if I have to do dialysis 3 times a week. Yeah, so once you get a kidney transplant, you can't eat some food. So on dialysis, the diet is very restrictive. You can't eat potassium, very high potassium food. So if you're eating potatoes or even traditional veggies like managu and all those, you have to soak them to remove the potassium because now your body cannot handle it on dialysis. But when you get a kidney transplant, you can eat those things, but then you now have to avoid fruits like grapefruit. And there's a list of other fruits because the medication we are on gets this interference when you eat these fruits.
Later in 2016 November, his sister donated him a kidney in a transplant that took place in India. Taking extra precautions due to low immunity has also been a tough journey. Those living with chronic kidney disease are advised to go for dialysis thrice a week for better quality of life. Although most Kenyans are not able to afford a session that roughly costs 10,000 Kenya shillings, and getting a donor is also a challenge.
Kenya, we have been doing transplants and our numbers are increasing. Unfortunately, so far we have only been doing what are called living donor or kidney transplants. We don't have the deceased donor organ program yet, although the Kenya Renal Association, together with the Ministry of Health, has been working on an act, the Kenya Organ Tissue Transplant Act, to pave way for the deceased donor organ program. And it sets down the guidelines and the legal frameworks for the deceased donor organ program.
Dr. Hussein says COVID-19 had an impact on the course of delivering dialysis.
Initially, it was quite challenging because we had to put in safety precautions. All the dialysis units were given guidelines from the Kenya Renal Association, which is headed by Dr. Ahmed Twahir. We set out the guidelines as to how patients can be dialyzed, how to dialyze somebody who has who has been infected with COVID-19 as well. Because remember that patients are side by side in the dialysis units. So the risk of contracting the infection from one patient can significantly increase. Patients who are transplanted as well are on heavy immunosuppression. Immunosuppression means that we have to suppress the body's immunity, which can fight the foreign kidney or the transplanted kidney. So these patients become more vulnerable to contracting the COVID-19 disease. 1 and 2 is that the disease can become more severe in such patients because of the immunosuppression.
Now, unfortunately, one can't be asymptomatic and symptoms come up when the disease has progressed. Thus, Dr. Hussein encourages citizens to go for regular blood and urine tests, maintain a healthy diet, reduce salt intake, exercise, hydrate, and manage underlying conditions. Being diagnosed with a kidney disease is a challenge for both the patient and those living around them. Thus, this year's theme is living well with the disease. Reporting for Switch TV, my name is Harriet Chimea.